Hello everyone, myself Dinesh Rao. I globally head Enterprise Application Services at Infosys. Today I'm coming with a new series of our interactions and conversations with our very dear customers as well as industry thought leaders to understand the new digital revolution that's happening and what it means to the business, our customers, and how does it really look at as we look ahead in the years to come in terms of IT and the business integration. I'm today privileged to have with me Christian Bayer from Syngenta. He's our dear customer. We've been partners for many years. He heads ERP and data and analytics platforms at Syngenta. Welcome to you, Christian, and thank you very much for your partnership and agreeing to be a part of this session.
Hello, Dinesh. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Christian, first of all, to start our conversation, why don't you talk about yourself and let us know one or two aspects that none of us have been able to know about you?
Yes, sure. Yeah, I'm German. I'm married with a farmer's daughter. I'm living here not far away from our headquarters in Switzerland on the countryside, actually near the farm of my wife. We have 3 kids, a boy with 18 and 2 girls with 12 and 8 years. I have studied economics in Germany with a master in IT, and I'm working here in Switzerland for more than 25 years, starting off in pharma and then moved to Novartis Crop Protection in '96 and now with Syngenta. Yeah, maybe something about my private life. I'm an addicted skydiver. Since my military service in Germany in '86, I have now over 5,000 jumps, competing at the national, international level for over 20 years in formation skydiving, and I'm still enjoying it.
Very well, Christian. I think this bit of skydiving is very daring, and it's nice to talk to you who has such a background of working at various different industries, and your experience of 25 years, I'm sure, would be a lot for us to gain from in today's conversation. Well, a lot of us know a bit about Syngenta, that since we've been working as being an agri major, it helps just to kind of set the context down from your side to hear what does Syngenta do and what's your very specific role?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sure. As you already said, Syngenta is one of the market leaders in the agriculture business. So our direct competition are the famous names like Bayer, BASF, Corteva. I think for us, we have opened up a new chapter this year by launching the Syngenta Group, which is bringing together the crop protection and seeds business of Syngenta with the Adama crop protection business and all of the China-based agri-business of Sinochem and ChemChina. So this new group now has 23 billion of sales, over 49,000 employees in over 100 countries in the world. We are now structured in 4 business units: Syngenta Crop Protection, Syngenta Seeds, Adama, and the Syngenta Group China, which will specifically focus on our business in China as you can say, a 5th region almost in the world.
See, one of the things that amazes me, Christian, is you are one of the pioneers in really adopting Agile and DevOps. When I really look at the ERP, look at across, typically ERP is not something that you associate with Agile ways of working and DevOps way of working. And then secondly, the challenge that one needs to go through to culturally change, if you will, right from the good old waterfall model where everything used to be completely identified, signed off, and then you really start off on your configuration and next journey and etc. It's all completely changed. In some sense, the culture has to change within your IT organization. You need to have business partnering and trying to define those epics and understand how this happens. And most importantly, bringing partners like us also on the same plane to make all these things really tango together, right? How has been your journey in slowly shifting an organization from a traditional way to this agile way? And can you share your success mantra, if you will, in terms of what has what is this brought to Syngenta in terms of the business outcomes as well?
Yeah, sure. Look, I have been working the last years in a big program in Syngenta where we rolled out a number of IT solutions across the world, and we have already started to adopt agile concepts as part of that program. It was, at the time, early days, I would say, and pretty hard for the business to understand why they would want to engage into something where they cannot describe at the beginning what they want, get clarity about the bill that they have to pay, and then just wait for the result to be delivered by IT. But rather be part of a story from day one throughout the whole exercise until the final product gets delivered. I think they have learned together with us that working in an agile way is much more predictable than working in a waterfall way, as you deliver value along the way and you can see the product growing and developing and you can influence and steer along the way. Now, when I took over this role in the SAP team here at Syngenta, I wanted to bring some of this experience into this very traditional way of how we have been supporting our big ERP systems the last, you can almost say, 20 years in very much an unchanged way. Right? And I'm actually very proud of what we have achieved now in the mid of 2020, being 6 months into this new endeavor. We have actually made possible what others felt is impossible to do. We made SAP Agile in Syngenta. And we've done this together with you guys from Infosys, and I think it was a great journey. When I took over the SAP team, SAP was perceived by many stakeholders in the organization as slow, expensive, and at the time, it was even mentioned as one of the top 3 risks in terms of stability by our executive team, which is even worse. So we have launched a program that we called AMS Reboot to really reset how we are internally, but also how we are together with our partners support our SAP applications. As part of this, we have built a team with Infosys, and we have worked on what is the right operating model for this. And we agreed that we would adopt a Spotify agile model with product owners, tribes, squads, organized by business process. And we've implemented this over the course of the last 6 months. And already after 3 months, we saw that we have significantly reduced our priority 1 issues. We've been able to take SAP away from the risk list that it was in the global leadership team. We've cut down small change delivery lead time by over 50%, which was a big problem for us. Really, with the agile DevOps teams, that was a significant step. We have established a specific SAP help desk where we are shifting left all easy tickets, and we are already plus 20% of all tickets directly fixed at the help desk, which is making a big change on the service perception by the end users. Typical service requests are now getting delivered under 2 days from request until they are in production. I think that's record, probably a world record, I would say. And on top of this, we've done it by reducing the overall cost by over 30%. Right? So I think taking that into account is even a better achievement. So Agile, you can see, is not only faster, it can also be less costly if it's done the right way, I would say. I have one testimonial for one of our senior business stakeholder after a couple of months into the AMS setup, the new setup, and he said, this AMS reboot is a game changer in SAP support. That was literally what he said.
Wow, Christian, I think, this is absolutely phenomenal, because a lot of times we hear about customer embarking on a journey and we are a partner as well. But I think, from hearing from you, the absolute clear articulation of the business outcome, right? It is just not about cost, but the agility as well as services that we gave, and ultimately the customer really claiming that this has been a game changer. It means a lot to the business. And I can tell you that me and my team, right, I think are really excited with this journey, and it's been a very fulfilling experience for us as well as we walk with you in terms of this agile, right? At one end, wanting to make sure that we keep pace with the transformation needs of what business is asking, but kind of not lose the sight of overall direction and what we have set out for IT to make sure we build a resilient and a stable IT system and for our customers as well as, right? How do you see your role today in terms of changing or evolving or how is it transformed as you walked through in your last 20-25 years in this role that you've been at? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I think the role of IT certainly has significantly changed in the past years. Probably years ago, IT has been seen very much as a cost. I think nowadays IT is clearly recognized by the senior leaders of companies as a key enabler to the business. Digital solutions, IT solutions are becoming more and more critical to run the business, but even they are becoming part of the offering to customers and partners. Right? There is almost nothing that you can do in the business anymore without having some sort of technology involved to enable it. While obviously the investment in IT is not increasing, right? We're still living in a world of cost pressure. There's a different requirement coming from the business in terms of agility to IT than what it was in the past. And the normal ways how we have worked with the business in the past would not be able to cater to these requirements. So the way we are dealing with that in Syngenta IT is that we have organized ourselves in the last 2 years very clearly into business partnering IT teams to work very closely with the different parts of the business to shape the technology roadmap, and technology platform teams that really have IT technical experts that run and build digital solutions and IT solutions. So IT leaders in Syngenta are now part of every key leadership team, right? So very closely connected to the business. We are adopting agile concepts across the whole business. Ideas like having product owners in the business that are working with DevOps teams that consist of business and IT people is increasing the ownership of IT systems with the business, but also we are able to deliver technology much faster, and innovation comes much faster to the market than before. So a big thing that we have done the last 1 year was we have developed business roadmaps together with the business that really integrate where the technology is going the next years with what are the business value creation steps that we want to take in between. Nobody is willing to invest anymore $200 or $300 million in an IT solution where the benefit might come 3 years down the line. Right? So you have to think differently. You have to deliver incremental value to secure the funding from the business for what you want to do. Right? So that is certainly a big step forward for us. And I think IT has never been placed better than today. So it's really an exciting place to be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic to hear that, Christian, right? I think you're absolutely right. I think it is, with digital being the core strategy of every organization, which has to really drive new business models, intimacy with the customer, as well as the overall growth of the organization, I think we need to be at every strategic meeting and every important decision that happens in the organization. I agree with you, and I think some of what you talked about, embedding yourself within the business group, trying to be at the key leadership decision making, and try and really kind of shape the thinking, if you will, so that the technology and the strategy marriage is absolutely fantastic. Christian, I think one of the things that you hear these days, right, as a part of any digital journey with our customers and across, right, is moving into cloud, right, which brings in the agility, which secures your entire data information, right, which extraordinarily improves the productivity of your employees and helps you as well adopt newer and newer technologies and ability to innovate as well at a very faster pace. And right, so I know that in case of Syngenta, right, I think you folks have started your journey on a cloud in terms of moving the ERP as well as the non-ERP as well onto the cloud. Can you just help us understand what has been your key considerations when you really looked at this journey of moving into the cloud, and then what has been their outcomes and key success factors, if you will, right, in terms of enabling the journey as well as how you see this panning out?
Yeah, sure. For Syngenta IT in 2020, we have set ourselves a set of priorities, as you would always do as a good organization. One of it was better, faster, cheaper through the cloud. So we in Syngenta, we had already before 2020 a cloud-first strategy in place. So we have already looked at cloud solutions wherever possible as the first choice. If you just take classical back office processes like procurement or HR, we have already used cloud solutions like Ariba, Workday, Concur. We're using Microsoft Office, Teams, Zoom, so the typical things. Wherever we can use a cloud solution, we use it. I think the big step for us was to recognize that for a company like Syngenta, there is no reason to have on-prem applications in data centers, while there are hyperscaler out there that can do that better. Plus, they have a set of technology stacks available to us that bring us capabilities that you can't get anywhere else. So the key drivers for us to move to the cloud are obviously improving the total cost of ownership of our systems, right, while gaining scalability, elasticity, and performance. Access to latest technology, future readiness is a key point. You also are forced to stay current with your software, which will give you a higher level of information security, and you reach a certain level of independence and transparency about your infrastructure and about your services. So having said that, we decided last year that we will move in a program all our SAP and non-SAP applications into the cloud, and we will have that journey completed by Q3 2021. For us as a seasonal business in the agro space, this will give us scalability as well as the flexibility to scale up and down by season and as and when we need the capacity. So that is a big enabler for us, and also it will give us a much higher cost control, because we can choose when we want to have more capacity and performance in place and when we can take it down. The other key consideration for us was being future ready. If you are with your systems in a cloud data center, you will have the full S4HANA support for your SAP systems that will enable your roadmap. We have started this year with our big S4HANA implementation that will bring our new core group finance systems to life, and that's already installed in AWS. And I can tell you, with my experience of over 20 years in the SAP world, I've never seen such an easy infrastructure implementation as in this program. So that's really a step change to what we have seen in the old data center on-prem world. I think another consideration for us was, once you are with your systems in a hyperscaler environment, you have access to the whole technology stack, and that opens up a whole set of new possibilities. For example, we are investing heavily into an AWS-based data lake and data science platform that will bring us high-performance data analytics at a relatively low cost. So that is a great enabler for anything we want to do in the future with machine learning, AI, advanced analytics. And we're already working on some interesting use cases in R&D, in production supply, but also finance and commercial teams are already very interested. So really, I see that for a company like Syngenta, there are almost only positives by moving into the cloud.
Absolutely, Christian. I think it's fantastic the way you actually summarize, right? Future ready, adoption of new technologies, right? I think your one statement of moving or implementing S4, which has never been that easier so far, I mean, kind of summarizes what cloud has to really offer to the business, right? In terms of how you look at it. And I agree with you, right? I think in general, very, very many of our customers who are at a stage where they want to embark on a S4 transformation, right? They are really seriously considering that they need to really move. And quite importantly, what you talked about, investing into the future in terms of analytics and then bringing in the AI and machine learning capabilities. I think that also helps you bring in the data across multiple different sources, systems, I mean, even beyond Syngenta as well, right? I think, see, one of the other key things, Christian, when you really look at a lot of enterprises today is innovation is at their forefront, and obviously cloud and digital is a very big enabler there, right? In terms of really looking at newer business models to work, as well as newer way of engaging clients and etc. And like you also mentioned, right, I think this is one of the oldest occupations in the humankind, that the agriculture industry is where you are really touching the hearts and lives of so many millions of farmers across the world, right? In some sense, when I really heard your whole theme of digitizing the farm, right? This is it's an extremely ambitious project, as well as, it could pretty much kind of revolutionize, if you really look at how the farming community would be looked at, right? And to me, coming from India, where over 60% of the population really kind of thrives and lives on this farming, right? Perhaps would be a game changer. I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on what this digital farming that you folks have embarked on, and how does it going to change the lives of the farming community, the distributors, and in general, the entire occupation as you really look at, right, from the farmer's angle. Yeah.
Yes, well, digital agronomy and also digital marketing and e-commerce have been hyped for quite a while in the agronomy industry. Reality, though, is that the agribusiness is a very traditional, people-oriented business. Digital agronomy is probably promising to replace experience-based decisions that have been made by agronomists together with farmers through fact-based and science-based decisions. Right? That's a big promise. In reality today, farmers are trusting advisors and experts that they know, that they have built relationship with over a long period of time, and they buy with their trusted distributor near to them, where they have the relationship and they get the best rebate and credit. I mean, that's the reality. But the digital revolution is coming, and it has to come in the ag industry. If you just look at some facts around the industry that probably a lot of people are not aware of, there is a huge decline on family workers on farm. So over 70% less than what it was in the past. The average age of farm operators around the world is way over 50. And in many parts of the world, you can see also a labor shortage increasing, right? That is asking for more automation in the ag business, specifically when you look at high value crops like strawberries, for example, or asparagus. So these two things had to come together, the right technology and the right timing, and then you have a real lift up. Now, having said that, this week there was an announcement by Bloomberg, which we are very proud of in Syngenta. And in that announcement, Bloomberg said that Bayer and Syngenta are battling for the title of the leading digital agrochemical supplier in the world. So being the number one or next to Bayer in this is for us a big achievement. And connected to this, I want to talk a little bit about our digital agronomy platform, CropWise, that we have launched this year. So Syngenta now has its own digital brand. We call it CropWise. This is a brand and it's a platform. And we are trying to improve the yield of farmers through bringing them the right technology advice and technology tools to better manage the farm, and we try to improve the profit of the farmer through just a much better farm management and data analytics that help them reduce input, hence costs on the farm. So on the platform, we are offering our own agronomic solutions like seed selectors, for example, but also we are offering satellite imaging and farm management solutions from our acquisitions that we did the last 2 years, just to name a few: Strider in Latin America, FarmShots, Cropio in East Europe, LandDB in North America. All these tools are helping us now to replace physical field visits with agronomy advisors and field scouts through virtual meetings and through technology on the platform. And now we have in Syngenta, I think we are the number one in terms of captured acres, millions of acres on our digital platform in the industry. But having said that, not even 10% of the acres that are planted are actually digitally captured. So it's a big field and it's very early days. There's another exciting space next to the CropWise platform, which is collaborations with technology providers. Because all of that goes into the area of how do we apply chemicals in a better, more sustainable way, and in a more controlled and in a more safe way on the farm. For example, we are working on a collaboration with a German technology manufacturer to connect our product information directly with the sprayer to apply the chemical on the field. And as an example, you can use a barcode to scan all the instructions of a chemical directly into the sprayer. That saves the farmer to read an over 40 pages manual for the chemical and what specific measures he should take for this particular sprayer. So it's a huge benefit for a farmer to have that type of technology available. It saves time, saves costs, much more sustainable application, much more safe application of chemicals on the field. So quite a lot of exciting things that are happening in the digital agronomy space.
Wow, Christian, this is incredible. You know, I mean, the one place, one occupation where we thought that it is so human intensive, right? I think, you kind of really redefining the future of the farming. The more I keep hearing to you, I just get so excited with so much of technology interventions that you folks are doing. It is absolutely outstanding and phenomenal. I hope, I don't know if there are places where some of these things are today in the POC. Would love to come and visit and see how some of these things are really impacting on the ground.
I think there is another element in the digital world that I would like to talk about, which is the take up of digital marketing and e-commerce in the agribusiness. Right. And we've seen an increased interest and willingness in the market for both digital marketing and e-commerce, and COVID certainly has helped to accelerate that development, as I mentioned before. But this is very early days. As I said, it's a very traditional go-to-market model in many countries in the agribusiness, and we are collaborating now with channel partners to provide new ways to buy products electronically, but still get those products delivered by our partners. So that's quite a significant development that we see in the agribusiness, and certainly we'll keep an eye on that development in the next years.
Very nice, Christian. I think that gave an absolutely a fantastic bird's eye view into all the important strategic initiatives that you folks are. I know you only think about some of these interventions that you folks are embarking on in a very highly consumer-centric CPG or a retail business, or in an electronic business like how Apple or Google are trying, but you're kind of really redefining the future of farming. It's absolutely phenomenal. And in some sense, I think you will be the pioneers if some of these things really start gaining pace. And that shows strategically, right? You're completely repivoting your entire organization and bringing the relevance to your most important stakeholders, the farmers who really are the consumers of your end products, right? It is absolutely nice to hear this and very futuristic. Someday we get to really see this in action as we look at. Christian, what I wanted to also see in talking to a lot of my other customers across the various industry segments, right? This pandemic over the last 8-9 months is kind of been unprecedented in some sense, has defined the meaning of what the new digital world is, has made us to go back and relook at our business strategies, trying to really kind of go back and rethink what is working and what should we be doing differently. A lot of people have had to rejig and rethink about their entire supply chain, some in terms of how they react with the customer, how the market principles and fundamentals have changed, right? So for Syngenta, right, I'm sure that you would have also gone through some of these your learnings. And so what has this been the last 8-9 months, and in terms of how it is transpired and how as an organization you have reacted, and then how do you see this kind of having some kind of strategic imperatives changing as you look ahead and in the years to come?
Yeah, sure. I think that's an absolutely valid question at this moment in time. Look, Syngenta is operating in the agribusiness, and the agriculture business, you can say, is already a 10,000-year-old industry. And having said that, COVID brought some changes to us as well, but we were relatively going through a stable season compared to many other industries that have been hit very hard by the pandemic this year. Of course, we had challenges like other companies to keep our employees safe and to ensure delivery to our partners and growers during all the economic turbulences in 2020. But fundamentally, the agriculture business has not changed through COVID. The world still needs food. The farmers are planting and harvesting, so that remains stable. But we have seen a spike in demand due to the supply uncertainty of chemicals in China, We had bad weather, trade uncertainties, currency devaluations that were like the big ticket items for us during this season. But of course, we also see that there is some impact on how we are operating the business, not so much on the result of this year, but really how we are operating the business. First of all, COVID has resulted in an acceleration of the use of digital tools and digital touch points with our customers, and probably has accelerated this development by years. Events like product launches, sales conventions that were key customer events in the past, we had to hold virtually, right? Which was a revolution in this industry. Farm interactions like field visits, giving advice to farmers, had to be replaced by digital means, using digital tools. Also, these are things that are pretty revolutionary in this industry. So digital touch points are certainly coming faster than what we expected before COVID, that's for sure. Then the other thing that I would like to mention is the impact on supply of chemicals. I think many industries have realized that their supply chain were probably too dependent on only one or very few sources for base chemicals or base ingredients that they need for their production. Safety stocks probably have been reduced to optimize working capital. And many companies now have to review their sourcing strategy and how their supply risk profile looks like. Our supply chain has done a tremendous job this year. We were actually able to gain market share in several areas because we have been able to supply at any time during this year. So really kudos to our supply chain teams in 2020.
Yeah, in some sense, Christian, I agree with you because, if I really look at the retailers, the grocery, right? I mean, the whole forecasting in itself went, they weren't able to predict because the pandemic started moving from state to state, country to country, region to region. The whole safety stock went haywire. And then the unfortunate part is the demands of items started fluctuating very, very differently from each one, right? In some sense, the whole norm of really what we meant in terms of how the traditional supply chain is to be run was in terms a question mark. I'm really glad to hear that you folks really managed and did a fantastic job, right, in terms of that. See, considering it's a pandemic, all of us had to really kind of shift gears to bring the resilience in terms of making our employees work from home. Just like you have over 49 to 50,000 people, we also have about 250,000 employees, right? In itself, right, making sure that their well-being is also paramount. But in the industry that I come from, one of the key things is that we need to make sure that they're very relevant to the next project or the program that I hear from my client, make sure that they're enabled digitally. So we kind of enabled our digital platform and to make sure that all our employees keep up to speed on the new digital technologies. They get trained and they're incentivized. In some sense, we created an environment to make sure that the learning never stops, because that's something which is a constant in a services industry that we come from, right? And as well make sure that their engagement, the culture, which is the core essence of an organization, that needs to continue while it is very hard, because working in remote, a lot of those touch and feel, the coffee conversations, the water cooler conversations never happens to kind of feel and touch and etc., right? So how has been yours and Syngenta's experience in terms of continuing your engagement and importantly retaining the culture as you really look at in the current context of working from home scenario?
Yeah, I think it was from an employee perspective, it was a very challenging time, and it is by no means over, as we can see with all the COVID numbers going up in Europe these days or in other parts of the world. Look, for us, the employee was always at the center of our attention in Syngenta. and not only since COVID. Just this week, we got a very interesting news. Syngenta has been rated number 4 overall and has been rated top under the agricultural employers by the Science magazine. That's a great recognition for us as a company and as an employer. But as you said, COVID brought specific challenges to the employees of Syngenta as well as our partners. Just some personal insights from me as I was part of the IT COVID management team in Syngenta. The impact of the pandemic is at the local level, right? The impact on people can be very different depending on where you live. And if you run a global organization like Syngenta, you have to be mindful that the working day of an individual employee in Switzerland or Germany can be very different from a Syngenta employee in India or Bangladesh or in Brazil. And that is a very important point. Then we also recognize that even in a big organization like Syngenta or Infosys, there are people with unique knowledge and skill sets that are not easy to replace. Also, that was a recognition for me, and that we have been working with Infosys particularly on how do we ensure that we are well covered across the whole set of skill sets that we have on both sides to support our IT systems. And that brings me to the third insight, which is whatever you do, you have to not only do it for your employees, you have to do it also for the employees of your partners and suppliers, because of the highly integrated way we are operating together. You have to look at both. So the way we worked in Syngenta was we had set up COVID response teams at a local level. And those have been able to escalate to the regional and global COVID management teams. And those teams, they have met to start with on a weekly basis. And then depending on how the local situation was, more often or less often. Those were always cross-functional teams where you had IT, you had HR, you had the business people sitting around the table and looking at the whole operations, looking at the well-being of the people in that location. And they have taken the global guidance and they have applied it locally depending on how the local situation was. And that worked for us very, very well. We had introduced very early on the working from home concept across the company. So early on we said, wherever a person can work from home, let that person work from home. Let's make sure every employee is safe. And we needed to invest into the technology to make that happen. And luckily we found that because of our very proactive cloud-first strategy, the only thing we had to do was really to increase VPN capacity, because we had some systems that were still needing VPN to access them. But that was the only thing from a technical perspective. I think, as you mentioned before, the much more tricky part was how do you keep people connected while they're sitting at home, and how do you help them to replace that lack of social contact with something different. So the way we worked at Syngenta was that all micro teams have started to establish very short daily stand-ups, just to get connected and talk about how they're doing and what's happening on the day, what are some of the priorities that kept people together. We had the same done between Syngenta teams and partner teams. Like in my space, we had daily stand-ups with my team and the Infosys team every morning, and that's continuing. We have been doing innovation contests and hackathons and games, shared videos across the teams, and that was helping to break the rhythm of the daily routine at home and bring some fun and some motivation to the teams. Then, from a Syngenta perspective, in terms of training, I think the big thing that I would like to mention is we have launched a campaign that we called Work Better. So an IT-led campaign that is still running, and it is continuously improving our remote working capability and is continuously providing tools, tips, trainings to all our employees across Syngenta. So that certainly has helped a lot to make everybody as efficient and effective in working remotely. And then the last thing that we're doing right now is we have been doing surveys across the world around how employees would envision their future workplace. Now, with the experience of working from home for a couple of months, coming back to the office part-time, people are starting to have not only a different feeling about how they work, but also a different expectation on what the employer will make happen around flexible working models. And we're still working through those findings and building teams to shape the future. But for sure, the future will be different than what the past was. That is clear to everybody.
Absolutely, Christian. I think you summarized it. In some sense, with respect to employees, that is something that we've also been doing. In fact, now we've started adopting employee engagement surveys, maybe less than a quarter. So we kind of continue to measure the culture index, whether we continue to retain the culture, the resilience index, and what we call as an employee value proposition are some of those key elements that we continue to be known for. We want to continuously measure. We can't really wait for 6 months to a year and look it as a process of continuously hearing the employees and keep changing as we really look at. And I agree. I think as we really look ahead, right, I think the options it provides us in terms of just the human manpower that is available today from all the various cities and tier 1, tier 2 across the globe in terms of bringing the best human capital to any program or project, it just increases many folds, and it will be a phenomenal thing that all of us could potentially tap into. And key thing is for us to continue to keep the culture on. So Christian, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you for the last 1 hour. We kind of really broad-based and talked about from your core areas of digital to what cloud means to Syngenta, how is the agri industry changing, and what the future of digital farming is. And we rounded off with a fantastic session with what employee means to mutually as an organization to us. To me, this partnership is, we hold it very close to our heart. We are extremely proud to be working with Syngenta and being a part of your team. Your partnership means extraordinary for us. Thank you very much for your business and partnership. And I think I'm sure that the viewers who are going to watch this has a wealth of nuggets and information that they can really carry through.
Thank you. You're welcome, and thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.